vendors. The mobile app helps the vendors and the renters and such. That's the
Well,
main thing.
according to what I was told by your company is that the standard setup, without the mobile app, you can still do pretty much everything. You can eliminate the codes, you can still get your vendors and all the people that work for you to come in remotely. There's not much more that this mobile app can really do.
We had a big discussion about this in the grounds committee. Would have been nice if you'd come to that and talk about these things.
I think we're ready
I didn't know
I
that
think
you
we're
were
ready for John to
but
make his
I would love to
recommendation.
come there.
Good, go ahead, and we'll cover this right now.
And as Sterling said in that meeting that we were in, and his boss said, that if the smart key doesn't work,
Did anybody research where we could actually see this in action? I mean, I know the company has offered to put it in here. If you wanna try it out, I suggest trying it out first. Put it in a couple locations and give it a test before you actually.
So Sterling, we can roll that out in 1 or 2 of our 9 communities, right?
Yeah.
The mobile app, okay.
And that's what's already been approved.
The agreement that we had with them was if we do it, it is a separate line item in the contract. That they would agree to put it in 2 locations. One would be at one of our gates and one would be at the clubhouse, which gets a lot of use. So we would set it up in 2 separate locations. We would try it for what, a month or 2 months or so, you know, while they're doing other things, getting permits and that type of stuff. If we find it effective, it stays and it continues. If we do not find it effective and it not working, it gets pulled completely out of the contract and it's less the amount that we pay when we're finished with everything.
So I know,
Because that
You
doesn't-
can
and that's-
also get it at one gate too, right?
So
As
grounds,
I said, one gate and the clubhouse.
so grounds
2
committee has
locations.
kicked this around for at least a year. John's got a lot of work to do. Just give us your recommendations and let us see it.
my recommendation is to go with the 10 proposal, TM proposal with smart key services added.
Make a motion.
Which proposal, John?
Which two?
Oh,
Okay.
the IP protocol.
The IP protocol, okay, so you got that marked, okay? So make a motion.
I think I just did. I make a motion to do the TEM smart key proposal that was handed to us with the internet protocol for the cameras.
I second that motion. Mark, it gives you the IP that you highly recommended. Any other discussion on this?
This is what the committee likes?
We didn't know about the IT stuff before.
I do need to make sure you understand a couple of things
Right,
that we
I'm
will
sorry.
have to
So-
factor in on that.
Yeah, so the difference is 65,000 for IP versus the DVRs, you're right.
For the initial
Good
setup.
question. And per gate, the cost goes from $115 a month to $165 a month. So it's about $50 a month per gate, so about $500 a month, more per, so about $500 more.
It'll be $6,000 more a year for the
Extra
for the
bandwidth.
service, so we just need to make sure that we factor that in. We need to do a little bit of adjusting. before
And-
time.
What we save on the VOIP
And a
though?
$65,000
That's including the VOIP.
one-time
That-
upcharge
that
every
is
gate.
That's the net number still.
Yeah.
That's
I think we could get that into the price that.
So that 50 was the
Yeah,
internet,
we'll work on
you
that
actually
sometime.
upgraded the internet on the line?
You have to have internet at each gate.
So that's what that fee was, it
So
was.
Sarah, how does that affect your budget?
We could still probably keep everything the same and just
Great.
Move some things
reallocate
around.
some things.
Good, okay, all in favor? Aye? Any opposed? Good, super. Well, we're gonna get all new gates, cameras. How many years have we waited for this, huh? Good. Mr. Ramsey, Corporal Ramsey, you wanna talk about your speed study? I'm sorry.
Alright, so.
And where's zip along after this, folks? We're almost done.
We're getting there.
Thanks for coming, have a good night.
So at the beginning of the month, September, I believe it was 9th, it was a Saturday morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, I came out and put up a speed limit sign that you saw down at the roundabout, that as you came towards it, it lit up and told you how fast you were going. So I put it out there, and it's a new system for us that we just got, so this is the first place that I put it to try it out and to try to collect data off of, especially since I know what we have for issues here. The battery that we put in it, it lasted from Saturday morning at 6 o'clock in the morning until like 4 o'clock in the morning Wednesday morning. And then it died. I came out here around 11 o'clock in the morning and noticed it was dead. Put another battery in and got 3 or 4 more hours of data off of it. I just stayed out here waiting for it to collect the data, and then I took the box out of here. So just in, let's see, that'd be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and part of Wednesday, you had 8,875 cars go through just that one direction. Just the one direction. The fastest speed was 55 miles an hour, and that was when it was raining.
What was that
So-
speed, I'm sorry?
55.
That was the fastest track speed, and it was raining. It was a silver car. So it was a female driving it too.
Was it a C class?
Now you're in trouble. You should have kept your mouth shut.
It was a silver four-door.
It's blue and it's an S class.
So if I put more time in, I probably could have got the picture out and downloaded
It's
it.
silver in the rain.
Let's see, so your main times for your traffic volume is between 1600 and 1800, so more like between 4:45 and 5:30. You have almost 220 cars going through at that time. That's on the average. Yeah. So let's see. Look at another screen here.
Those strips, those are measuring speed too, right, when there's the double
Those
strips?
are a little different, and I was gonna tell you, I had another machine that I put out here that nobody knew about, that I put out here for 4 days, that was out here before that. It was just a little box, it sat in the same place at the bottom of the pole, and all it does is it just tracks vehicles that are coming through and the speed. It doesn't give, there's a lot of other data that it doesn't give. So, you had about the same amount of cars coming through, because that was during the week period, not a weekend, so there's a little more in the cars, and the speeding was much higher. Now when I say speeding, the average speed during that time period is only about 40 miles an hour, between 34, I think, 34 and 40. The maximum 40, more around the 36, 37. The speed limit right there is 30. So, the high speed of 15 plus is not happening, but on occasion. It's not in any specific time either. So as we went into with the machine there, everybody who sees their speed slows down. So it dropped dramatically compared to the other data that was collected.
Plus radar detectors going off all the way at the clubhouse.
And it could be, it could be. So, but when I went through the data, let's see, on Sunday, you had 1,687 cars go through there. Monday, 2,406 cars. Tuesday, 2,397. Wednesday, like I told you, our data had stopped collecting, so we only had 406 cars. Let's see, Saturday you had 1,979 cars. So it breaks it down to average daily, which was 1,775, but with Wednesday the way it was, that kind of obscures the time period. So on Monday, between 8 was your between 8 and 9. That was your highest volume of 184 cars. Tuesday was 202. So between 8 and 9, that's a lot of cars going, and that's just one direction that we're recording, not both directions.
So double that.
Correct. In the afternoon, your highest point is between 17 and 1,800, which was 286 cars. 1,800 was 204 cars, and then it drops down to 156. And then all the way at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, you have between 60 and then 40, and at 11 o'clock, about 25. The highest speed that was on there overall, the actual highest speed was 58, and that was me testing it. So, I had it set up that if anybody was doing over 45 miles an hour, the flashing light would come on. So if you were coming down that way and you saw the flashing light way down, it's like a strobe. If you saw that, then you were speeding. By the time you got to the sign, you might have dropped down speed by then, and the machine didn't pick you up, but it picks up your distance and the way you're traveling. It just didn't record your data. So, but if you're going over 45, then you would have seen the strobing line.
Looks like it's taking your picture or something, doesn't it?
Yeah, as you get close to it, it starts reading you, because that machine is designed to, it does sporadic pictures throughout the day, just for re-information, kind of reorientating itself, so it'll take a picture. So, there's some pictures we just see people walking the dogs going by, and it just because of having to catch the picture. If somebody goes to tamper with it, or try to remove it or do anything, it'll take a picture of them. So we have some kids that were looking at it. They got kind of close to it. So they didn't touch it, but they got close to it. Yes, sir.
Just a general question, if you have 2,000 going one way on a weekday and 2,000 going the other way, that's 4,000. In the total scheme of things, is that light? Is that moderate traffic? Is that heavy traffic? I mean, compared with other, obviously Narcoossee Road is 4 times that amount or something.
Right.
But just other kind of streets kind of, positioned somewhat where we are.
Right. So I think based on the street, because really, nobody should be going, obviously it's a cut through.
Right.
To the backside, but, for the amount of traffic, especially like 286 at between 5 and 6, that's pretty high volume just going one direction. And I'm sure there's some that it didn't catch.
Did you get a training effect?
Say again?
Were the speeds higher the first day versus the third day? People get trained to know that it's there and the speeds were less?
Yes, let me look at that, because it did change.
Do you have a total number of speeders?
Or percentage?
I can give you a percentage, but like I said, it's not gonna be exactly accurate because, so, almost 32% of everybody who drove by, was between 21 and 25 miles an hour. You had less than 5% between 41 to 45 miles an hour. You had 5%, just shy of 5%, or I'm sorry, yeah, 5%, doing 36 to 40 miles an hour. And then 31 to 35 miles an hour was about almost 15%. So the majority of your people were, 26 to 30 miles an hour was almost 20%. And like I said, 21 to 25. And I can break it down into the daily average and tell you, but the majority of the speeding, so let's see, your 46 to 50, you had one at 6 a.m. What day is this? So this is our, this is a Monday here.
So would you say we have a speeding problem?
So that's what I'm telling you. So one between 45 and 50, you had one at 6 a.m., one at 9 a.m., one at 3 p.m., one at 6 p.m., one at 9 p.m. So that was your highest speeds on average, other than the 55. So you had what, 5 there?
So, would you equate that into a speeding problem, or is that?
The speeding problem that we have on the boulevard is gonna be 45, it's gonna be about the average high speed.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, relative to other places, do you think that street is a problem, like?
Based on the amount of the up to 45, yes. That would be a complaint that we would keep open.
But, and that's 50% over the speed limit, it's not.
Correct, so if the speed limit is 30.
That's a high standard deviation.
So, everybody that works for me or works in traffic, if we're working in a neighborhood setting where the speed limit is 25, then we typically write for 10 or more over. Because, everybody's gonna have, go a little faster, so that'd be 40.
Yeah, I'm sorry, by the way, when I gave you those stats from the 3 ticket blitzes, every one of those was at least 10 over, so you were right. So nobody got a 36 and a 30, 38 and a 30, they were at least 10 over.
Right, the only time we deviate from that thinking is school zones or construction zones, and hence it's a zero tolerance for that, yes, sir.
What's the rationale? Down by the school, the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. Up at the other end, which has almost identical, we've got gates coming and going, it's 25 miles an hour.
So the speed is set by your entrances, your exits, by medians. So the state comes out, or the county, they come out, and they're the ones who actually establish what the speed will be. Typically in a neighborhood, it's 25 because you have multiple driveways, you have people walking in and out. So down in that area, I can only assume the way that they placed it down there is because of the type of medians that you have down there and the turns that come up. But you're kind of blind to some of the neighborhoods coming in and out. So coming this direction, it's a straight shoot. You don't have any neighborhoods, you have one on one side before you get to the roundabout, well, just right after, but basically you really only have one. so it's not a whole bunch. So the other direction you have more entrances and exits.
Good. Thank you, John. Anything else you want to add to that?
Nope.
Good, great work. Thank you. Thanks for setting that up and thanks for taking that independent thought. Okay, anything else on old business? Okay, we're gonna move into, the parking policy. Dave, do you wanna cover that, or do you want grounds committee to
Grounds,
cover
I
that?
think, is gonna cover.
I'm not here to talk about it. Brian, if he was here, I'm sure he would.
Okay, then our grounds committee liaison, John will handle that.
The grounds committee did an extensive study of the streets. They actually went out and measured the streets. We have different width streets around the neighborhood. The developer got as many houses as he could, and they take the width of the streets. So when we get cars parked on both sides of the street, in some cases, emergency vehicles cannot get through. This was the issue that we were trying to solve. What should we do?
The streets go from 12.5 feet to 20 feet.
So the grounds committee did all this research and came up with a recommendation, and, based on the size of the street, they were gonna try and make different policies. One of them being only side of the street parking. The other was, should we eliminate street parking? And, none of these are good solutions, they're really not. Dave Bauer and, Brian Trago from the grounds committee.
And Lisa.
And Lisa sat down and wrote a little proposal. And it's more of an educational thing at first. Rather than implement something, we're leaning toward alternate side of the street parking, odd even months. If you've got an odd number address,
Not on the address, odd number month.
odd number month, odd number address. You park on one side of the street, next month you park on the other side of the street. It's not great, but, there are occasions where emergency vehicles can get through. Emergency vehicles will get through. They'll just push your other car out of the way, they'll ram it and get it out of the way. We don't want that to happen either, So Brian Trago, Dave Bauer, Lisa Mason kind of come up here and said, maybe what we need is to begin with an education program to the community. We have this problem. We need to get cars off the street. We know that the driveways are short. People have trouble getting cars into their drive. We know that garages aren't car garages anymore, it's junk garages. And maybe we can, combine our yard sale with a clean up your garage month or something like that. And try and get a car in the garage, which would give a space on the driveway for another car to get off the street. And do it as an educational process first, I think.
Well, just a couple,
So
to me,
I turn it over to you.
To me, the
because Brian's not here.
concern on doing 1 month this side and the other month the other side is then we have twice the density of cars, and we got garbage trucks, we got the postman driving through there. And I just, it may create more problems than what we solved, was my concern.
So then, do we do no street parking?
Okay, yeah, the no street parking to me is overkill, perhaps, okay, in that I see, as I go through, and as part of the compliance thing, I spend a lot of time driving around the community, okay? And what I can name you 5 or 6 troublesome spots, okay, and there are always troublesome spots. But I can go through a lot of the other communities and I never see a troublesome spot. And my thinking was, why don't we at least first try to tackle those troublesome spots? And we can do that with warnings. And, if you get it, kind of like if you get 1 warning, that's fine. You get a 2nd warning, that's not so good. Maybe the 3rd warning, you get towed, okay? And maybe if there are 2 cars that are blocking, and one would not be blocking, but the fact that both of them are located, they are blocking, maybe we tow both of them. But only after we have had a chance to give them a couple of warnings and keep a list of the people who we've given the warnings to, and when we get up to 2 or 3 or whatever we think is an appropriate thing, let's try punishing those people as opposed to inconveniencing 1,046 other homes. That was my thing.
What did grounds committee think?
We haven't discussed that. I don't really know what we're talking about, to be honest with you. Brian, I
Well, you're talking about parking.
Talk about parking and grounds for sure, but I don't know what communication piece you're talking about tonight.
Well, we're talking about.
I thought you'd already
No,
had some
the-
parking
The
lots.
piece was alternate side of the street parking, we can't leave it the way it is, everyone is unanimous on
Right.
that. No street parking, Eagle Creek has no street parking, Village Walk has alternates on the street till midnight, then no parking from midnight till 6 AM. Unless it's a Super Bowl,
Or New Year's Eve.
or graduation, or any pre-assigned, as approved by the clubhouse. So if there's a death in the family, if there's a birthday party, christening, you just tell the office, and you'll get it one night. Parking pass or a couple nights if you can have a wake or a funeral. But we all know that we can't get emergency vehicles done. We're now having houses skipped with garbage pickup, because the garbage trucks with these new arms don't have the flexibility to have somebody jump off and roll it out.
Right.
So now we're getting all these complaints about mail and garbage being missed.
I'm not opposed, I mean, it was only a suggestion.
No, but I wanna talk this out, and we don't wanna make this decision unilaterally.
I would support banning cars from the streets. I mean, that's to me the only other clean option, because I see every other side of the street becoming more of an issue than what we have today,
Most
because of the other
issues-
stuff.
Most of the issues I've seen is during the day when the landscaping vehicles with their big ride trailers.
Right.
And they park them right opposite each other on the street and you can't get through.
I can say that your idea of triage in certain areas is one of my original thoughts as well, which is the roads that are wide enough to allow both sides, why are we worrying about? But the discussion of the committee was that we need to be a blanket thing for enforcement and be fair to everyone.
And not be arbitrary.
And that was one of the other thoughts.
So as Don says, in my opinion, it is mainly vendors and guests of residents. Mainly, okay, but it seems like of 1,050 homes in North Shore, we have 1,000 different landscape companies come. I mean, everybody has a landscaping company, and I see them parked 1, 2, 3 feet from the curb. I see that you can't get a truck through, and we have talked about this for 2 years, and we have to come up with some kind of solution. God forbid, we have an emergency and a vehicle can't get in, like Tanner Crossing, and a man has a heart attack and dies because the ambulance can't get in. You know, shame on us for having 2 years to digest this and not having done something. John, you're in a lot of neighborhoods every day.
Right.
What's your gut on this? You've been here for years.
I have another neighborhood that, I run the off-duty in as well. And it's smaller than this, but they, do not allow any parking on, in the evening times on the street. So, 10 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning is their hours. And they periodically have a tow service that comes around, looks for the vehicles. If they see it, they just tow it. They also have 2, designated parking areas, overflow areas within their neighborhood. One at the back and one at the front, so that anybody who, is parking at a residence doesn't have room to park, they can go park in this overflow area. That's one suggestion, and I think we talked about that once before.
What do we do during the day when we have all these landscaping trucks with the trailers?
Yeah,
Plus-
it's gonna be difficult, because if they're legally parked and it's a narrow street, then unless there's signs that says no parking right there, then there's not a lot you can do. As long as they're not blocking, driveways, as long as they're not blocking, mailboxes, but then you have the issue with the
Garbage cans.
garbage cans. So maybe that, if you're gonna address it that way, maybe look, contact all of these yard services. So, for example, if it's your house and you have to tell your guy he can only park this direction, everybody has to park facing the same
Or
direction.
maybe when we issue a app to the vendors, we
You
make
can
them
tell
sign a
them.
parking policy, so
Yeah.
that they're aware of it. And the nice thing is, at the last board meeting, the grounds committee came up with this brilliant idea, of having magnetic signs, which Lisa has ordered up, and there's no problem for us to get a sign on each gate that says, September, odd side of the street parking only, you will be towed.
The
So
other-
we do have magnetic signs, and we can make sure that every car that comes in gets to read them pretty overtly, so.
Can we?
The other thing
Education
for
is a big
the
help.
residents,
Yeah.
the decals on the cars for residents, we've found some that not only will have something on the outside who you'll know that it's a resident, but on the inside it'll list the months, January, March, et cetera, parking on odd side, February, parking on even side, I don't even think I got that right, but it'll have it listed out which side you can park on which month, so you see it. in your own car every time you
Yeah,
drive in.
so we don't wanna tow a bunch of cars either unless there's a compliance issue, but we can't put a sign on every gate, so you're fully noted when you come in, and I like that idea.
So the grounds committee put forward a policy proposal, and I thought we voted on it last, I thought we didn't do it last quarter.
We discussed, but we didn't vote on it. Can we also, here's an idea, approve vendors? We have a list of approved landscapers, I mean, it could be 30, 40, 50 vendors. But then if we find that one vendor keeps blocking things, or they violate the policy 3 times, they're no longer an approved vendor, and people have to go to landscaping.
We can't use the term approved, we can only take some assumptive, liability to it, but we can say vendors that have.
Well, we could trespass. Right.
Access,
Non-trespassing.
call it access list.
Sure, non-trespassing
Wouldn't
vendors.
it be better to, talk to the homeowner and make them to be the ones enforcing it?
No, because people are at work, I don't know what the guy.
Right, if I tell you that your vendor's messing up, wouldn't you take action?
Sure, I would call them, but there's no real way to police it. Listen, if you go and you tell a vendor, you get busted 3 times, parking wrong, you can't do work at North Shore anymore, they're gonna police themselves.
Right, but I can see the homeowner get upset if you're telling them to make them use for the pool.
Right.
Well, I mean, again, everybody starts.
If they violate the community rules, they violate the community rules.
And I agree with Andrew, you should be responsible for your guests and
I
vendors.
just put the pressure on, put the fine to the homeowner.
Yeah.
Correct, that would be the way it would have to be. It'd have to go to the homeowner, 'cause you cannot trespass somebody that is being invited in. It doesn't matter. So for example, if you know, he's a friend of mine, he's visiting me, and he came up here on his own, and whoever here didn't like him and said, I want you trespassed, you can't come up here. You can't tell him he can't come to my house. He can still come to my house, even though it's a gated community, he still owns his house, he can have that person there
Well, we can
anytime he wants.
tow the vehicle.
Correct, and so if you have your rules set that they can't park in a specific way, and if your tow company is comfortable that they can tow it,
Yeah.
or you can put the fine, if there's gonna be a fine or a warning on the homeowner. The homeowner ultimately is responsible for anybody who comes into the neighborhood, so it would have to go on to them. And I imagine that if they get hit with a fine, that they're either gonna tell the person, fix it, or you're no longer working for me. So that might eliminate that one person, and if it continually happens for others, that will push that person out. It's not you saying you can't use that vendor.
And we could do it in steps. We could give them a warning. One of the second or third things we could do is we could now take their access away for getting in the gate, where the resident has to then let them in every time, you know, until something's changed.
Yeah, so unless it's very egregious, we give a warning first. But like we came in today, and this car's parked up on the grass on the sidewalk again. And I don't know where you live that you can park on the sidewalk, so little kids have to ride into the street on their bicycles. And people walking their dogs have to go on the street. So that one, to me, I don't have a lot of sympathy to give a warning. There's no place that you can live that you can park on the sidewalk, and there should be some idiot penalty to that.
And although those non-moving violations, we do write a lot of those, and I think this month we've written, I wanna say about 22 of
And a
them.
lot of left-wheel curbs, people park on the wrong side of the road too.
Could we start with a plan where, let's say we didn't allow parking, like just at night, to start off with. No parking on the street, but just have it at certain hours, just to start off with, as opposed to, like, you know, moving to no parking at all, anytime.
So here's what we've got. We've got a recommendation that has come from a joint collaboration between the grounds committee, compliance committee, and staff, along with attorney review of it. And we will send this out with a budget. We'll have one board meeting of comment, and then we're gonna do what we think is right and implement some rules. So we'll.
Why don't you also send out the one side, each month proposal?
Yes.
Okay,
It's basically the
That's what-
information.
it's
board
exactly
that
what
you
you
guys
did.
came up
yeah.
with.
Yeah.
I thought they're somewhat different though, right? Aren't there 2 options?
Well, these were possible changes.
Yeah,
In
okay.
your bulletin, they were possible. It points out the problem to the residents. Here are some possible solutions,
Yeah.
you know, bring us feedback.
Yeah, and then we'll have one board meeting of comment,
Okay.
and then we'll implement it clean.
Fair enough.
Okay? And maybe 30 days unless it's egregious, a warning. If it's ridiculous, we'll tow. Great, okay, thank you. Thanks for your work. Thank Brian for his work and your work. Okay, new business, tennis lessons. Lisa, you want me to skip you? We're on new business now.
Go ahead, skip that part, go down, you've got a couple people here that are doing that.
Okay. Well, what do you cover that part? Okay, next on the agenda is an architectural variance for Sandy Marsh Lane. Is that homeowner here? No, okay. Lisa, are you representing the homeowner?
Do you want? Yeah, that'll work
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, which one are we on?
6B, Sandy Marsh Lane.
6B Sandy Marsh Lane. Okay, so the residents installed a, they got approval to have a fence put in, but the location that they put the fence in did not match what was approved based upon the fact that they replaced their air conditioner at the same time. So their original plan was the fence, the air conditioner would be inside the fence. When they put their new air conditioner in, their new air conditioner was moved forward slightly, which put their fence forward. So we violated them because their fence extended slightly in front of their neighbor's front elevation. So we gave them a violation on that. They came back and resubmitted to the ARB asking for a variance. We told them that that wasn't acceptable, that it had to be moved back, even if their air conditioner was not inside the fence. They could put something, a shrub or something else in that area. So the ARB has pushed it to the board because the resident is asking for a variance. There's also a letter attached from the next door neighbor.
So David, what was your inclination on this?
I hate to venture an opinion, I haven't seen it.
That's right,
But-
you haven't, because it didn't get to you yet.
Ah, okay.
I'm assuming this came from the B committee, right?
Yes,
Nothing.
because they haven't got to the, we grabbed one, so you can look at it too.
Okay, let's table that for a second. And the fine violation for Myrtle Creek Lane? Yeah. It looks like they're pretty far out along the side of the house. Yeah. And David, there's also a complaint from the adjoining homeowner.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I thought the neighbor
Well, actually,
said it was fine.
There's actually two. There's a
Oh.
complaint from a neighbor, but not in writing, and then there is a
Okay.
written approval from the adjoining neighbor.
So this neighbor that's approving it is the one whose house it goes in front of their
Yes,
elevation.
it's a corner lot, and the one that it's next to, if you see in the picture, that's the one who wrote the letter.
Approved.
Yes,
Okay.
they didn't mind it.
While we wait for Dave to review this, let's jump into Myrtle Creek.
Okay, Myrtle Creek. This is a resident who was fined, twice for two separate violations, in the past, a few years ago. I attached a letter to it. They received $1,000, fine, we'll read over your shoulder. They received $1,000 fine back in 2012 for replacing sod. They also received a fine for $1,000 in 2014 for pressure washing their house. I attached her ledger. She is requesting that the fines be waived as she ultimately cured everything and has kept her house since January of 2014 up to date and has had no more violations, and she's continued to pay her assessments. Now, one of the reasons this has come up is because she is delinquent, the amount of the fines, she has been turned over to collections because she'd hit a certain limit on hers. So, that was one of the reasons that it came to light so quickly. The resident has been very, involved with me since I got here, trying to find a way that either this was resolved in the past or we could get it resolved now. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to find any documentation where it was supposedly resolved in the past. So she's coming to the board now asking if it
So
can be
we've had this
resolved.
issue a lot because the records didn't get passed over well from First Service to Aegis. I'm inclined to cut each of those $1,000 fines down to $100 plus whatever collection attorney costs that we have. We've had numerous of these where they get passed on.
Has it been corrected? Have all of the items that she
The
was
two
violating
items have
for
been
been
corrected.
corrected?
Correct, but now it's gone out to collection.
Yeah, but I'd eliminate the fine
Completely?
incompletely, and if you wanna go after the extraneous
I'm
stuff.
I'm amenable to that.
That's consistent with what we've done before.
Yeah, I second
That's
that.
it? Okay, so I make a motion in regard to Myrtle Creek Lane, we'll leave the house number off for confidentiality, that we waive the $2,000 fines and just recoup what our attorney fees are and late fees, okay?
Do we have a,
Do we have a second for that?
I second it.
Second, Jim, second that. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. No opposed? Okay, easy. Good. Thanks, David. You want, should we drive by and look at that?
I want it right here.
Oh, that's you.
That's
Okay.
me.
I asked if you, oh, I'm sorry, I guess I asked the first one.
Everybody
Yeah.
Is that amicable to you?
Well, it's. Sure.
No, go ahead, comments.
It's been 2 years ago and it's fine.
So we waived the $2,000
Thank you.
fines. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Under good faith, we assume that you talked to somebody who no longer works there.
that'll pretty much
Yes.
bring you to just about current.
Current,
and then-
yeah, and
but
that's
we
all I
have-
asked because I actually had a credit
Good,
for all
and
this.
we have to recoup what our attorney fees and collection costs are. I think they're quite minimal, so we'll wipe the $1,000 fines off, okay? This is your chance to speak, for sure, tell us what you
Sure,
think.
I just don't know what the fees were assessed after that. I guess I can get with Lisa. I
Lisa
don't
can
know.
get with you on that. She
yes.
can give you total, and
We have
if
a
that
check
is,
that's being held for you right now.
and if that's an issue,
3 checks.
if that's an issue, we'll bring it up at the next board meeting, how's that?
Okay.
Okay?
That's totally
We'll
fine.
give you our word for that, okay?
Okay.
Good, super. David, should we go by and look at that? or-
Yeah, I would like to take a look at this. I
Okay.
can't, I mean, it's just
So-
difficult for me to know.
So Sandy Marsh Lane architectural variance, we're gonna shelf to the next board meeting? It's not that pressing anyway? Thanks.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll keep this if I could.
Yeah, that's my copy, so
Okay.
just to have her give you a copy when you're done, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, the next.
Tennis lessons.
The tennis lessons. So we've been doing some different types of things to get people involved in the community and more, doing things out in the community. We've got the lacrosse clinic, we've had the swimming lessons, we have the mommy and me classes, the yoga classes, those types of things. And we've had some interest in people holding tennis lessons and tennis clinics. So we have a resident who has recently moved into the community who is part of whatever the abbreviations are for the tennis association. I have it right here. And they have offered USPTA. So they have offered to provide tennis clinics and tennis lessons to residents at a reduced rate. So what we did is we looked at the times that the tennis courts are not actively being used much. We requested that it be only one court used at a time, so the other 2 courts remain. And we've come up with a tentative schedule and tentative fees, and we just wanna make sure that we don't have any major objections to sending this out like the rest of the other activities that we're trying to get going in the community. It would be for all different age levels, and there would also be something called cardio tennis, which is like an exercise class. That's not necessarily tennis, but it kind of incorporates parts of tennis into it. So it'd be another offering for the residents.
Lisa, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I recall a group of people that wanted to do some kind of camp or something that came and.
It was from the USTA.
Are they already doing that, or is that
No,
not approved?
we do not approve that.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Lisa, have there been any dialogue, I'm only turning it around, sorry.
Sorry.
Have we had any dialogue with them about doing an indemnification?
They have provided insurance and an indemnification to us, the same as we did with the
Swim kids. Okay.
swim kids.
Jennifer, would you look at that? The swim kids is a good template.
Right.
If you're comfortable, if council is comfortable with that, I'm much more inclined to do that, but we definitely want that. Do we need to be a certificate of insurance, co-name?
Right, so they don't have an agreement that they propose, we can propose one to them.
Perfect, and yes, and I've got a copy of the insurance. The other thing is.
And we have to be co-named so that we get an expiry.
Additional insured, right.
Right.
The other thing that they have offered is a portion of whatever fees they do charge in their clinics, would be willing to come back to the association to put into something just to improve and do certain things to the tennis courts. Because we've had requests for doing certain things like putting canopies up, adding scorecards, doing certain things like that. So it'd be a way to improve that area without it coming out of the budget
Okay.
as it gets used.
What does everybody think?
With the policy and use
Didn't we have
Would
it was
it
a
be
lady
residents
who
only?
wanted to do a tennis program?
That's a good question.
Residents
only?
This is being sent out and offered to residents, yeah, it's being sent out.
So-
Now, if a resident comes, if you come and you want to bring your other daughter that doesn't live here, you're welcome to do that. But it wouldn't be your daughter coming by herself. Just like if you're playing softball out here, you can't expect to have an entire softball group that's made up of all residents that wanna play at one time, all on the same level. You're gonna have a couple of residents and you're gonna have some of their invited guests, just like on the basketball court.
Well,
You're
as
gonna
long
have
as they're
two
a
or
guest
three.
or something, but I think it should be all
No, they would be a
residents.
resident and their guest.
Okay, Dennis,
Yes, I'm part of a group that regularly uses the tennis court on Saturday morning, specifically Saturday morning.
That's one of the times it wouldn't be
Let
being
me
used.
finish, man. And I've noticed every Saturday morning, one court is basically taken up with at least 3 different people giving lessons over the period of probably say from 8 o'clock until about 11 o'clock when I'm there. And sometimes even when we're leaving, we see people coming, giving lessons. I do not object to that because it makes sense, we spread the tennis and more people get more involved. What I'm concerned about is number one, that they just don't come and take over the courts and saying that we're giving lessons, we have approval from the board to give lessons, and then the residents are left out. So, if it's gonna be one court they can use only, and we, the resident, have access to the other 2 courts, that's fine, but that must be enforced.
One of the,
Also, sorry, one last thing. Also, if we have young kids running around, similar to the swimming pool, if we have young kids running around on the tennis courts, there has to be a formal way of keeping them in a good behavior where they're not interrupting the other players.
correct.
Because especially if we're over here and it's playing tennis, and we hit a ball, sometimes you're gonna hit a bad shot. It may sometimes hit someone if they're running all over the place. And they're also disturbing the flow of our game. So I wanna make sure that all those are put into writing where the instructor must make sure that those things are controlled.
Absolutely.
Dennis will also say that we can revoke it if it doesn't work out, okay?
Well, okay.
Good, okay.
Perfect. Do you want me to answer a couple of those questions? Yeah, we'll put that in the
Your point is
agreement.
that you don't have to answer it,
Okay.
we wanna zip along, so.
I'll talk to you afterwards.
But you also said that Saturday morning is not one of the times.
Saturday mornings is not one of the times proposed, and one of the things we are doing is we're putting the tennis courts on the reservation calendar, and we're numbering each one, and people can start reserving the tennis courts.
Great,
Okay.
okay, super, thank you. Okay, so we're all in favor of that.
Okay.
Okay, holiday light installation.
This is something that just was brought up to me at the beginning of the week, that apparently you guys do holiday lights every year, so I got the guy contacted me on Monday, first I'd heard of it. So I have his proposal,
The guy who did the most work on that was Don.
I talked to Don about
Okay,
it.
good, okay,
Right, I
thanks.
talked to Don about it. Basically, the proposal is, they're proposing to keep it the exact same installation and cost as last year. I have not bid it out yet. I would like the opportunity to do that, so if you want to approve something, I would approve the dollar amounts and a not to exceed, and then I can go about bidding it out, see if we can get anything better.
Sure.
Doesn't he have our stuff? I mean, we
Yeah.
purchased the stuff and he stores it for us?
He has all our stuff.
And according to him, that stuff is not gonna be usable after next year. He
Okay.
wants us to upgrade to LED this year or at the latest next year at a tune of almost $8,000.
Which is not off the chart for what we paid in the past. That's really not,
No,
not
he's
too much.
talking an additional $8,000.
Yeah,
to
which is a
upgrade to.
one-time purchase, yeah.
So I just would like to, I haven't had the opportunity to bid it to see if it's, you know,
And plus LED, we get a little bit of a payback on energy.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if it's appreciable or not. Sure, I'm happy to make a resolution if you wanna run with it, that we approve Christmas lighting, it's already budgeted anyway, not to exceed the amount that's in the budget. And you have your discretion as the manager to choose a vendor, we don't need to micromanage this, to your, best
I
opinion.
didn't know that it was in the budget already either.
Yes,
I
it's
would've
every
brought
year
it
it's
up.
in the
I didn't
budget.
know it was.
Good, do we have a second for that?
We can make sure we put it 27.
Good, John, second that.
I didn't put it in.
Any other discussion on Christmas lights, holiday lights? All in favor? Aye. No opposed? Okay, we have finished our agenda. Does any resident have?
Yes, we had one more that got, a homeowner brought something in, and you have it on the last one, you were almost there. Sorry, you were almost there. So there's one more request that came in from a homeowner at the last minute that is a similar, it is a violation,
What number is that?
it's not a number, because it wasn't on the agenda.
Well, give this to Jennifer, I saw that. Okay.
Yes.
Good, well, Jennifer looked at this. Do we have any homeowner comments as we get close to wrapping this up? We try and stay in 2 hours. Rose?
This is mainly for the board. It has to do with mediation on a case, and I'm just curious to know from each one of the board members if they are aware that a mediation has been brought to the board.
I'm sorry, Rose.
No, I have a right.
This is a legal matter, and
She has a
That
legal
would-
right as a resident to bring it up to the board at a board meeting, so why don't you address it?
That would be attorney-client, what the conversations that we had back and forth.
So are
with
they
the
all
board.
aware, though, that we want mediation?
The board has changed, the mediator is moving to a different firm. The ones that were in the initial request are aware of it. Now we have to have
These
new
board-
dates.
These board
with the new
members.
mediator in a new location.
Okay, so September wasn't good, and now October's isn't going to be good as well?
Because the mediator is changing firms. And we have asked that not all the board members have to be a part of it because it's not required. It's wasting their time. And honestly, I mean, I'm gonna, so that everybody knows what's about. These individuals, a few individuals have requested a great deal of records, like pretty much every record from the association for about 5 years. They actually just looked at all the election records for 5 hours from the election that we had, for 5 hours, which
We didn't look
requires.
at them, we scanned them.
Well, they scanned every piece of paper for 5 hours, so they've been asking for a lot of different records. In fact, they asked for records before the election even happened. The letter was postmarked before the day of the election. So a lot of attorney's fees are being expended on this, as well as the time of your board members, unfortunately. So they do have, and they have the right to do that. The statute allows them to do that. They are, part of the attorney budget, though, unfortunately, is for that. What they've asked for is extensive. We set forth a lot of different dates. It would require going to the storage unit. It would require to have records here. It would require time from either Chris or Lisa, probably bringing in a second person to go out to the storage unit. So we provided some different dates, and they didn't want any of them. So basically, by just saying no, it puts it into requiring a mediation. It's a humongous hassle for everyone. It's a bunch of legal expense that's not required, and they didn't try to work with us because it requires hours of work, hours of Lisa's work or Chris's work, and various different locations. So that's what they're talking about. We're trying to comply, but it's very arduous, it's very expensive, and we were trying to reach an agreement that would make it not quite so expensive. And these people, some of them have jobs, to go to mediation for a couple hours, it honestly is ridiculous, but it's required by the statute. So,
I'm available if you need something.
they want all 5 of you.
Oh,
Good.
fine.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm
let
saying.
me mention to the residents, so in over 2 years, 100% of our record requests, which cost us thousands of dollars every time we do it, have come from 4 residents. 100% from 4 residents, 2 which lived in the same household. So this instance last week where they came by and reviewed the election, we tried to have an election here. This community went years without having an election. It took a resident, Randolph Pina, to sue the board and the homeowners association to have a mediator or arbitrator order a new election, okay? It's the first election we had in many years, right? Since that day, the second election, we had a quorum. Every one of our records requests came from 4 people in the community for years. We have almost 3,800 people live here in Northshore. All of our records requests came from 4 people, 2 in the same household. So every time we do this, it costs your dues thousands of dollars to have attorneys sit there with them to go through. Now, at the last election, and we didn't have a quorum, it was well within our right under statute to just appoint a board member. But we didn't do
No,
that.
it's not, David. It's
It-
not your right. It's the
Okay,
right
this
of
is
the
not following the
association,
rules of
okay?
Okay,
It
it
is
was
not
within
your
our
right.
right to appoint the
No, it's
open
not.
position to the board,
No, it's not.
just like you did for years.
I did not.
So instead of appointing someone to the board, we held the election open longer until that we could establish quorum. And
You
that's
don't
how
know
Mark
your
joined,
statutes.
that's how the Mark joined the board.
Does that also
Mark,
mean this
answer.
new lawsuit that you're bringing up to us? Are every one of you aware of it? A brand new one?
Did you vote on it?
Did you
To
vote
spend
on it?
our money on a
Yes.
new lawsuit?
You're talking about thousands of dollars, David. Let's.
When was it voted on? When was there a meeting? There's
Okay,
never been
first
anything
of all, this
posted.
is, none of you are following the rules. You got 3 minutes to talk and there's rules because
I
of
haven't
you all,
spoke at all.
unfortunately. So your 3 minutes is up. If you want your
realize
3
you were
minutes, we can
talking.
address the, I mean,
No.
I,
Why not?
Well, this
What-
is,
whatever you
we're
wanna talk-
supposed to be, we're supposed to also be making a meeting for legal
Yes,
matters, right?
we have a meeting for
That's
legal-
what we need to do, I think, we need to, so we all know what's going on.
well,
I
and
think we
because
should
you
do
came
that.
on the board later, unfortunately, you're behind the 8 ball and a bunch of the
I'm
other
trying to get
discussions.
caught up.
Yeah,
I'm
and
trying
when
to
you
get
come,
caught up.
you could, you know,
Good.
you could ask me anything,
Super.
like you did before.
Any other business for the
So
board?
has it been voted on?
Did we,
The
Yes.
new lawsuit? Oh, when?
And then we close board meeting.
There was nothing posted. You have to post even a closed meeting.
There is.
I want to ask the board, and I'd like each board member to answer, did you vote to spend additional legal fees for lawsuits against First Service and against me and my mother
Some of these.
in the past month? I'm asking the board, I'm not asking
They
you,
weren't on the
Jennifer.
board though.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
were.
were.
One.
The board is, you're represented by counsel, we're not gonna speak to you
September
individually.
20th it was filed, and the
I'm
second
allowed
one
to.
was filed September
Oh, I didn't
29th.
speak to you.
But we are represented by counsel, and we're not
You're
gonna,
voting-
we're not gonna go into this.
We
You're
have five
voting
members
without
on
the
the
board
board
to
here.
spend money, and that is illegal.
The lawsuit.
The board
against-
has a right to know how you're spending money.
And so doesn't your association.
And all of our bills go to several of the board members, and they're here, and you've requested them and looked at them lots of times.
Oh, no,
The
oh,
lawsuit
no,
against you-
oh, no, don't go there. That is not true.
That, I know you've requested them.
I have
This was
requested
prior
and
to all of
received
this.
nothing.
There's been no compliance.
Nothing.
You requested them on multiple occasions and received them.
Well, if you'd
The-
answered
you
the
haven't given
first
us
one
anything.
for me, I wouldn't have had to apply the second
The
time.
lawsuit against you and your mom is an amended complaint. It's
Right,
not-
but that costs money.
No, it's not.
That costs money.
It's an amended complaint. It is not a new lawsuit. It
But it
doesn't-
still costs money for you to write the amended complaint. And is the board aware at that hearing, the judge told Jennifer to lose the association, that it was a personal matter, not the association matter. And the amended complaint continues to list the association.
Okay?
Yes, it does.
It's 8:55.
If it doesn't, then why are you representing them? You're the association attorney, not their attorney.
Joanne has asked her to put her on a committee, and she said she would. Tonight, she was not mentioned and not put on the committee.
I didn't say I would put anyone on the committee, I said I would make it available for the committee, and as soon as the communications committee meets, they will say who they want on the committee, which is absolutely fine, which is.
Tonight, you mentioned other people, they
But
put
they-
everybody, they put
The
him
only-
on.
You want, I'll get a response to you
Okay.
because you asked.
Can we get
Those
a- can we
people
get a
came
meeting
to
then we'll
committee
get all
meetings,
of
and
them
that's
out?
when the committee liaison asked them, and that's
We're
how.
great at the finance committee, I didn't know
I
you
know
wanted
it.
to be on it, I thought that
No.
only Dave
I'm
wanted
sorry,
to be
Lisa,
on it.
John?
No, sir, we're not allowed to be on
So,
it.
You're not allowed
did Joanne
to
get her
be
3 minutes?
on any
Yes.
committee.
Yeah, exactly.
No, no, I'm saying, I don't want you to, did she get her 3 minutes to
Yeah.
speak? Okay.
Good. Anybody else have anything? Okay, have a good night, thanks for coming. Thanks for a good meeting. Yeah. Okay, well, we tried, I tried. Okay.
Wait till this community gets into legal session.
But I just wanna make sure you know that it has to be in writing, so I can have proof. Right, exactly. Oh, okay. So you don't need me to come here tomorrow?